Thank you. Welcome to this April's HR Business Services Committee meeting. We'll start today at 4:32. We have no guest presentations for this meeting, so we'll move right on into the departmental reports. Director Severance?
Yes.
How are we doing? It looks good. Fill us in.
Doing well, yeah. So as you can see, we're getting a lot of the non-certified staff hired, which is great because look at how many more are hired than have resigned.
I count that every month.
Very exciting. And of course, we're working on certified staff, so the hires that you see are those that maybe are interim or just through the remainder of the school year, but we are currently filling for next year as well, which is not noted on this report yet. It will be on in April. So as I had mentioned last month, I believe that we did start to post our positions on March 28th. So I'm really excited about how quickly we were able to get those positions posted. And then every Tuesday, we post a new round. So we get through the filling, what processes, interviews, and then we've got next. So as soon as a requisition is put in, it will be posted within a week or less.
How do you feel that the new processes and everything are going? Because this will be our first full year of implementing it, correct?
Yeah, from an HR perspective, I think it's wonderful.
Great.
I don't know that the principals have caught up yet. I mean, they know that they can submit them, but we don't have as many requisitions submitted as we thought we would. Certain schools are very good and they want to get them in and they want to get their folks hired. Other schools have not yet done it. So, and I'm sure there's still some staffing decisions. We've done all the budget meetings, so they know kind of what they're looking at. But they might have some retirements. They're on the fence. Even though they've said they were going to retire, they might change their mind.
Okay.
So I think we are also being cautious of some of that. But I think overall,
Great.
it's going well. And if there is any hesitancy on the principals because of how soon it is happening, hopefully this year we'll just show them that it worked, and so next year it'll be that much better.
Great. Love hearing that.
I'd just like to note too that my appreciation for the department in all the process mapping and process improvement work that's being done. You can kind of see some of it on the board behind us, actually, some work that was done just basically by really articulately mapping out where things happen, where decisions happen, what happens at different points. We've also seen significant improvements, not just in the timeline we're putting in, but improvements in payroll, improvements in other areas. So really appreciate your leadership and the work that you're doing.
We did hire an executive assistant that will help support me. Becca Lester, you may have met her at the front desk. She'll remain there until we have her replacement, which should be next week. So
Will you be staffed then?
yes.
First time you'll be fully
Yes.
staffed? Awesome. Great
Yes,
news.
as soon as our HR manager won't start till June, but they're hired.
They're hired.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So very excited to have a full staff as we move into the new building especially. What I did not attach is the next piece is the mass mailer that we're working on for, let's see, Anthony, to send out. I think I brought this up in a couple of meetings. We were looking at a mailer to go to all the homes within the district area. This is our draft, or kind of final draft copy of that. So the front is actually on the bottom. We are hiring piece, and this is really specific to our maintenance because that's where we have the most need. But then on the back, we also talk about, which is the one on top, if you're not interested in maintenance, we also have paraprofessional challenge bus drivers. So, but I forgot to attach that to this, so I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to take a look at it. And if you have any comments or concerns with it, please. We haven't final it yet, but we believe it's at a point where we can get it going. And also, hopefully, we can post this out on our Facebook pages and some of the other social media pieces and other platforms just to get different things. And we also are going to maybe look to the schools for people to be able, especially this time of year as people are coming into summer, there might be some opportunities to get some schools in there.
Can you remind on this, how much this costs? Yeah, I mean, I know full color things are expensive to print.
So
but the postage.
The printing and the postage, along with the company that does this, has the list of all the people that it goes to.
Sure.
And I can't think off the top of my head what the number is, but it's a significant amount, and it's just under $10,000, which we did budget out of ESSER dollars previously, so that's where it will be coming from.
and I would just ask because, you know, we don't do this often, and so I just don't want everybody to think we can do it often.
Oh, yeah, no, this is, we've been working on this a long time, and probably had we not set aside money specifically out of the ESSER funds to do this, it probably wouldn't have a budget, so.
Yeah, I get it. I appreciate this, though.
And we're at a point now where I think this is a good time for us to be pushing some of this stuff out, and hopefully that will bring them here.
And is there a way to track people that apply because of this?
We can add to one of our check boxes, how did you hear of this job? We can add a number in there as an option for people to check.
I think that would be good, and you know, let us know if it's, you know, something significant, you know, for the positions, because we want to know if it was worth it.
Definitely. Benefits had another retirement session on March 22nd, 13 people in attendance. So that's less certified staff at this point. Now it's more of the non-certified staff that are considering this year to be doing some sort of retirement. Maybe not before the end of the school year, but they're getting information.
You said that's mainly non-certified staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We did sign a renewal with Calm, and if you recall, Calm is something we put into place last year to offer to all employees as a benefit. We have a really good participation rate. I think the current amount is 500 and some employees, and over 60% of those are actually using it actively.
Is the Calm app, I don't suppose, is that, sometimes they hook that up with health insurance premiums? Like it's Scholastica, we have this thing that's hooked up to it. So if you complete this many hours, you get a discount on your health insurance?
We don't have anything set up.
Okay, that makes sense. But that's a great participation, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's like I have said
Yeah.
before, it's much higher than like our EAP, which is our next targeted focus for employees. We'll be working on that as people come back in the fall. How do we get people to utilize the services that we have and we pay for free, and they may not know what the whole extensive pieces are with the EAP. Open enrollment, we just received our renewal rates, which were great in comparison to what we had budgeted for, so that's good news. We were at 1.5%, we budgeted for 6%.
We came in at 1.5% for benefits?
For health insurance. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Let's just sit here and absorb that for a minute.
Yeah,
Let's be thankful people are healthy.
Seriously, that's amazing. Okay.
yeah. So that's really good news for not only us, but all of our employees, because it'll be a very small increase in the rates as we go forward for the July 1st effective date. Our benefit staff is working right now on getting mailings out to all the retirees and anyone else, the retirees that are under 65, because they renew also with us in July, as well as any changes that would need to go for regular employees. So those packets will be going out here shortly so that they have the opportunity. And then we'll be doing our open enrollment in the first couple weeks of May. Contract negotiations are kind of getting underway. We've had requests, as you can see there, from Non-Cert Business Association, the paraprofessionals, the food service employees, the clericals and principals, and actually shortly after this went out, I did receive it also from teachers. So working on getting those scheduled with the different units, along with their EAs and any other staff that will be participating in that. We'll be meeting within the next couple of weeks with staff and talk about what are some of the language changes or items that the staff have concerns or desires for, so that we can start putting together proposals and think about what does that look like from a district perspective. And then of course we'll be talking, I know, at a future board meeting kind of about some of that negotiation strategy and those type of things as well. So right now we're just looking at language so that we can get that feel from the staff that supervise these different groups, what may or may not be helpful to change in there. Hiring updates, you can just kind of see very similar to what we typically have, other than you'll see there's still summer school. We have been working on filling those, and I do think that it's probably about half of this now, so we're getting there. Still have some time for that. Still looking for some paraprofessionals. We did just fill a few bus driver positions with already qualified bus drivers, so that's very exciting. We've also had some custodial staff come on. So we're baby stepping into better staff, right?
I always appreciate when our bus drivers are qualified.
Yes.
And I say that because for anybody that listening or watching, we will train people to be qualified bus drivers. So when you have one that comes to us that already has the CDL and the bus driver endorsement and can really learn the route because they don't have to be trained how to utilize the bus, it saves us a lot of time and it gets that person on the street right away.
You could add it to our mission statement.
That's very exciting.
Qualified.
Is that gonna, we can make them, our community celebration at 40.
Yeah, exactly.
The other piece, and it's that I wanted to just bring to your attention that was included is the year-to-date Teachers on Call report. We haven't had a lot of conversation about Teachers on Call in the last few months, which I'll be honest, I'm very thankful about, because that means that it's going well if I haven't had a lot of board members ask me about it. But I wanted to at least give some kind of stats, how we've been doing this year as we look into what we're going to do into the next school year. And likely, I don't see why we would not continue with Teachers on Call. There are maybe some tweaks that we'll need to make based on some of our other discussions with the teachers union, but overall, I think the fill rates have been great in comparison to previous years. We still struggle a little bit with that para absence, but I also, want you to take a look at some of the other stats on here. Overall requests year to date are almost 6,200 requests. So you think about staff that are gone for whatever various reason. That's a lot of people gone. And so then I also wanted to point out there, our year-to-date, that average fill rate, 64%, and that we do have a current pool size of 159. And I know that was one of a different board member, Member Sandholm, I think, had some concerns about the number of subs that we had, knowing that our previous subsystem was somewhat utterly inflated because we never took anybody out of it. Now these are actually accurate, and we have added 103 subs since the beginning of the school year. So I think it's been a really good, we've had really good progress, I think. And they're pretty self-sufficient.
So looking at the looking at the sub needs, 14, almost 1,500 of those are because they were filling vacant positions too. So Teachers on Call has been helpful in doing that too.
Yep.
Would like to know is there a process set up for employees to provide feedback on that? Because of the few emails that I have received, they're like, talk to these people, but I just wonder if there's some way that they can proactively provide feedback for tweaks.
For our staff, you mean?
To give feedback, it can give feedback to you about Teachers on Call. Yeah.
There's not a formal process, but I would welcome that from anyone. I know that if there is concerns, oftentimes the principals will contact Teachers on Call, Melanie on site here, with concerns that we have. But if there's general feedback,
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
I think they would just need to reach out to me directly, but I haven't said anything formally to say that.
Well, I think just people would like to know how, and if that's the how, that works too.
Yeah.
Because, if there are problems, about the structure of the position, it's not about specific people, but about how it operates and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think there may be some misunderstandings out there, or some assumptions, and if they got cleared up, I think what I've heard has been cleared up, but I don't know the answer either. So
Okay.
I always do refer people to the HR department, but if people always hesitate to call somebody official at admin unless it's like dire, that sort of thing.
Sure.
I think much rather reach out to us, which I don't, I guess we're more accessible, but you have less to do with it. So,
Yeah, happy to answer questions, and maybe if they feel more comfortable sending it to our general email, I could certainly send something out for feedback.
yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful in that they gather some feedback to make sure people are heard.
Yeah, and I know
Inclusive.
early on in the school year, a lot of that feedback went to Ethan with the DFT, and so we have a good communication. If there's something that really pops up, he usually brings it to me and asks the question, but that's not everybody, I'm sure, that necessarily have that.
There's para and other staff that might have concerns because they get billed too.
Sure, yeah. And then you'll also see as we go down, it just talks about fill rate by absence lead time. And so, you know, obviously the more time we have to fill, the greater the percentages, 78.5% if we have more than 24 hours to fill. It's a little more difficult the less, although I was kind of surprised by the after the start time fill, that's 43%. So there's some desperate calling happening there, I'm guessing. I just thought, you know, it was just some interesting information, and of course I provide, once we're done with school, I can provide a full year report.
I'd love to see that rate get up over 80, 78 is fantastic for our teachers, because the more we can fill our substitute roles, then the teachers get to have that prep, they get that time back, and then they're overall just happier.
Yes, definitely.
Right, so I love seeing this. I will say that the paras doubling in a year, 17 to 35, that's trending in the correct direction. So I think this is great data. And how do you feel administratively, and how does it go with principals? Is this teachers on call alleviating some of that stress for people? And like, is this making it better in your opinion?
I think it is, because I haven't had a lot of complaints.
Okay.
Since the early part of the year when we were still kind of filling in, and you know, even though our fill rates were much better than they were in the beginning of the year, they probably still weren't where people wanted them to be. But I think as we've gotten into it and we have more consistent subbing, and we were able to put some building subs in that were just there and took any position that needed to be done, and they got in the swing of things, I think it's come a long way. I haven't heard anything probably since before the first of the year.
Great, that's great news.
Yeah.
If I could just revisit this, those cards, are these already printed?
They are not. I just printed copies for you to take a look at.
But I just have two suggestions in that perhaps, you know, we're hiring for paraprofessionals, child nutrition, and bus drivers, maybe a bullet for substitutes for all positions, because people don't, you know, people are reading this and thinking full-time dedicated work, and even though, you know, they would be referred to teachers on call for that, but I think this would be a great opportunity for people that are just looking for part-time work or when they want to work, you know, might as well. And then on the other side, when I read this, it's great, except I'm assuming that we're advertising for hiring for next school year for maintenance positions?
Actually, no, right now.
Right, and so is there a way to put in like an immediate need for maintenance?
Sure.
Good point.
Because we want those maintenance people right now.
Yeah.
And you know, the other ones, you know, it clearly says you're hiring for next school year, and that's why I think the assumption may be made that, you know, we're hiring for next school year.
Yeah, we probably do. Yeah, we can make some tweaks so that
even if it's on the side and like apply today for immediate need or something like that, you know, just two suggestions.
Great, thank you so much.
That's a great report. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Just one more comment on the teachers on call piece. I know we do provide updates sometimes during our QSC meetings, and I know that teachers on call has been a conversation point during many of those meetings. It might be worthwhile to share some of this information during that meeting on Thursday.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to business services, our enrollment report. Love seeing it. We have 56, almost 57 more students than we budgeted for, so that's awesome. Still in the right direction.
Right.
And our positive or flat enrollment trend is having a positive effect on our Moody's rating, so I love to see these numbers.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
great.
talk about that, absolutely.
Is there anything additional, any questions on the enrollment report? Seen it, awesome. Great, moving on to child nutrition. We have a number of food bids that we'll be looking at later in the meeting, correct? Yeah, right? Our pizza
Pizza bid.
bid.
Bang! Well, that was on the agenda.
The Eater Boys were very excited to see the
Oh,
pizza
that's
bid
cute.
was there. Bakery products, that's important as well, so that's great that we're getting those food bids in. I'm assuming that we haven't had much guidance yet from MDE on what our free school meals will look like next year.
Not too much yet, but all students will be getting a free breakfast and lunch. And Sheila Oak does a great job, and as soon as she gets very specific guidelines, she'll let me know and we can discuss it. I'll make sure to get something in the packets for you going forward. We met yesterday, and right at this point, you know, my concern was, do we need to hire more staff? Is she anticipating more students at lunchtime? And she thinks she'll be okay so far. You know, the kids are still eat there, and some they'll all get it free now. So we'll see if it increases the food service.
And now just to be clear, they'll get the free mainline lunch, but the other stuff, no? Or is it all free?
All free. They all get a hot meal now. Yeah, and they've had free breakfast here since COVID, but they've always had free breakfast here. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
So they'll get free pizza every day of the week.
I think we might have to
Depending
triple
on
the
board
pizza.
approval.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to triple the pizza order.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There goes my pizza night, you know?
Yeah, right?
I don't
But it's a very exciting adventure too for all of us, and it's exciting for the students because I just think that can remove a lot of stress for students. So too, you know, they've got a hot meal here.
We're also waiting, MSBA should be putting out a model policy related to nutrition services in the near future, so that would probably come through policy in the near future.
It should be
A
coming
model
soon.
policy for what?
Related to the changes in nutritional services.
All right. We had National School Breakfast Week, the 6th through the 10th. They had 2 new breakfast items. I didn't know that. I'll have to do some research on that. And then we had our health department reviews. Seems like we're doing great. We haven't had any findings in over 20 years. That's awesome. That's because of our great staff.
They're excellent.
And now we have your big debut here in the HR Business Services meeting. Are you ready?
He's not ready.
He's not ready.
I haven't gotten any information yet.
He just started yesterday and we've
Put
already,
them on the
It
spot.
was good working with you, Brian.
That's our joke, it's good.
we've already indicated.
She just said, show up to me, that's all I have to do. I fulfilled my obligation.
That's hysterical. On to facilities report.
Yes, one thing you'll see that there's not a lot different in the first, you know, couple bullet points. When we get to the construction task on the Hill, I do have a few updates. But one thing I want to point out on the facilities management, that first bullet point with the work orders, as we've had new staff coming in and kind of looking at our work order system, he's been doing some digging. Our assistant manager has been doing some digging, and a lot of these work order numbers are somewhat false. And I don't mean that we've been trying to lead you astray, but a lot of these are open work orders from like 2015, 2018. And so he's trying to go through and either resolve them, see if they've been completed. So they're just kind of hanging out there. So they come up on this report as a number,
Got it.
but it's a little high compared to what is really happening. So hopefully next month we'll have a little cleaner numbers that, or at least some that have been resolved and we know they've either been done or they weren't done and now they're on task list to get performed. Doesn't mean people aren't doing their work and that everything isn't busily getting completed. It's just that some of these have just kind of been hanging out there with no closure.
Got it.
So it's very possible that we'll have a little bit less next month as a result of that. So construction tasks on the Hill. We're gonna have a trip up there on Friday for any of those board members that can make it. A lot has been happening. So furniture is being partially installed. We've had to make some adjustments to some of the layouts due to the original plan not supporting the staff numbers that we have. But it's been working out fine and we're doing tweaks here and there.
Can you say that again? Sorry. What did you say?
So the building design, as it was done, didn't have enough spots for everybody. So we've just been making some modifications to some of the conference areas, some of the itinerant areas, so that staff actually had a cubicle they could call their own, if you will. So we believe we have enough and maybe a few extra now based on some of the configuration changes that we've made. And so we're just working through now kind of that final, making sure all the things are lined up working on whiteboards today. We went up there just to kind of see what we might want to do for whiteboards and tack boards and some of those things that just hadn't really been addressed yet. And with fresh eyes on it, it's just opened up a few questions and opportunities for us to really make sure that it's exactly what we need.
Great.
So-
Could you install whiteboards instead of drywall?
Right, or chalkboard.
Or chalk paint, yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
Too late,
We are still looking though to probably not start making our first move until mid-June, early June. And again, that's all kind of related to getting occupancy because of the pavement projects and those type of things getting completed.
And we have this space until,
The end of August.
Yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So we should have no problem vacating this. And then the company that's moving us will also help get rid of anything that we have left in this building because we do need to take everything out of this.
And then once we're out of this building, what leases do we have left? We have the lease for ALC,
Yep, and the Arvid building, our adult basic education.
and that's for adult basic. And is that staying there?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we also, at a certain point, will want to consider what we would do with the transportation building. And we've had some interest from various entities interested in possible purchase and
Oh, that's great,
Others-
because we'll be back in the real estate business again.
Exactly.
hopefully.
More stuff to sell. And then, also there's consideration of Garfield, that's
Got it.
being used for storage, and we'll have to consider just from a strategic properties perspective what we would want to do with that.
Garfield was on the red plan, list of excess buildings to be gone, but it never considered.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just from lack of interest or me needing it.
I'm guessing that was because there is a function for it right now. All of our utility vehicles are there. We don't really have another place for them at this point. But there's also a lot of stuff there that was moved, that didn't come here when Hawks closed. So that's the other thing that we're gonna be pushing for departments to kind of go through their stuff so that we can, because it's getting full. And it's unnecessarily, I think a lot of it, some of the files of course can move up, but we want to make sure we're looking at retention schedules, and if we can get rid of things, we want to make sure we're going through that, and not keeping everything just because we always have. So, part of that process. As you know, there's still ongoing vacancies in the custodial ranks. We did meet with the maintenance union last week to talk about some of our engineering. We don't have a lot of qualified candidates to be able to move up the ranks into some of our engineer positions. And so trying to get creative with discussions about how can we encourage licensure, how can we provide opportunities for some of our custodial staff to get the license that would allow them to apply for engineering positions. So I think we had some really good conversation, and we have the same desire to get more staff in the building and get staff trained up. So working on some initiatives that can helpfully not only engage the current staff we have for promotion and opportunity, but get other people in the door as well.
Do we have staff that want to move up? And my next question is can we implement some kind of training program, kind of like we did with bus drivers, that, to motivate them and help them?
Yeah, so the question to that is kind of. We don't have a lot of incentive right now for custodians necessarily to become the next level engineer, and so that's what we're trying to work on, is what can we do to help support it. If it's, right now they're in the contract, they do have a small dollar amount if they get their license, but it's a one-time monies. We do have some opportunity to train with day engineering staff, so an apprenticeship, if you will, not a formalized one, but something to where you're talking about, where it's more training and showing them. But because we're short-staffed, there's not enough staff to cover that, so. Yeah, so we've been looking at, one of the things that we will be coming forward actually at the next board meeting is with a floating custodial position, and so that is actually the design. So it would be paid similar to our second shift engineer position, but it would be learning those engineering duties so that they could get their licensure, but they would be floating. So we'd really put them wherever we needed them, but they'd be able to work with different engineers at different buildings as well. So that is something that we're finalizing a job description on to show some flexibility for staff that are interested. And I think the other piece is we need to get out and talk to staff and say, why aren't you interested? why aren't you getting your licensure now? And if that means that we have to help support, the purchase of books or materials so that they can take the tests, we'll certainly look into what that means.
I mean, if they can do it somehow on the job, I think that would help. Because, and they are exhausted from being so short-staffed too. So I would hope that we can look at more support rather than the outside, because I'd rather come from within on when it comes to that, because our staff have really given it their all to keep it going. And, with 15 open positions, it's incredible, but they're still standing. So
Yeah, definitely. And that's our design too. We would like to be able to grow our own and offer opportunities for promotion, because people like that. People don't want it, but that's okay.
Exactly.
In fact, one of the problems right now though is also the state and their testing windows. So right now they're backlogged, I think 6 months. We have people that are ready to take their tests, but their testing date is not for another 5 or 6 months because of the states. When they provide the test and they don't do it electronically, you have to go to a site. So. The health and safety management, the fire marshal did order some corrections at Milestone and Lowell. They're all underway. Some other inspection and correction letters kind of move forward there. Transportation, I think we talked about this last month as well. We moved forward with all of those alleged discrepancies, and they did eventually disclose that case.
Is it common to have correction orders from the fire marshal? That's something that happens every year.
Yeah.
And are they significant corrections, or are they like, there's only fire extinguisher within
Yeah, or sometimes, teachers hanging too many posters on the wall to meet the ratio, or maybe
Didn't know that was.
putting things on the ceiling and things like that are, those tend to be the most
They're
common.
usually very easily correctable. It's not uncommon, it's more just a reminder.
Usually when they come in, they give you an immediate, they give you a 30-day and then a 90-day
Oh, okay.
to comply. And if for some reason, say you have a fire panel that needs some components changed out, with COVID and everything, it was impossible to get parts. So then they would just give you a stay until the following year. When I was in Fridley, we actually had a fire panel that was in need of some parts that we couldn't get for 2 years, and finally we got them. Yeah, it still worked, but it didn't work exactly like it was intended to. So they're pretty decent to deal with most of the time, and it's like you said, the hanging stuff from the ceiling and JZ chaining extension cords, and
I just hope that we have a very workable relationship with them, that they understand and you work with us rather than being like, fix this or else.
Yeah, I think our safety person, Matt Johnson, has a very good relationship, not only with the fire marshals, but with the OSHA folks as well. And then the last piece of information there is just your workers' comp and OSHA reportable activities.
And so I think this would be a great opportunity to let you introduce everybody to our OWL audience. And anything else you'd like us to know about you would be great.
I don't know much about the Owls, but my name is Brian Brown. I'm the new manager of facilities for the Duluth School District. I have about 32 years of experience now, so and I'm very happy to be here. It's very exciting for me.
I hope you received a warm welcome from everybody. We're very excited to have
I'm
a
great so
replacement for summer, but you got big shoes to fill too, so. But I'm sure you have your own shoes somewhere.
There's steel-toed.
Oh, right, good to know.
Safety in mind, safety first.
Thank you, Alana, that was exactly the right thing to do. Should have thought of it myself.
I was only reading your mind.
It's all right. Moving on to our technology department report. We have just the same. What I did not get time to read through before is this cybersecurity threat, so I do plan on reading that, but I have a lot of faith that Bart is making sure we're following these recommendations. There was a couple of things I wanted to point out for our community. District-wide, we're putting in 1,055 new wireless access point upgrades, so that's exciting. We've added over 550 new Dell Window desktop systems. And district-wide, we have $2 million in classroom AV upgrades. This will update 200 classrooms and take 50 to 70 days with the start date of Monday, June 12th. I think that $2 million investment in classroom AV upgrades will be much appreciated across the district.
Do teachers know if their computer is one that's gonna get replaced or those that are replaced?
Yes, they know. There was an assessment done on the needs, and there was some communication back to those staff who will receive the upgrade. So I know that communication has gone out through Marge.
And it's not like, you know, you take an entire school like MacArthur and the whole school is getting done. It's just individual, it's certain individuals that have older computers or, you know, piecemealed, or is it like everybody? I guess that's what I'm asking.
It is piecemeal because we've been replacing over the last 3 years. So as we identify additional resources, or you know, through ESSER and other means, you know, through the sales of certain properties, you know, we were able to find additional resources, and we continue to fill the gaps that exist out there.
So we're not gonna have teachers like going next door going, I want your computer, it's better.
They all have typically a life cycle, and
Yeah.
that's usually what it's all based
I
on.
was gonna say, yeah.
At some point, they had the newer one.
Good answer, good answer.
And I would be remiss, I mean, we even with this significant investment, we still have a gap that exists. You know, we need another $3 million just to, you know, meet the needs that exist out there, and we need to continue to add additional resources as things time out, right? So devices go old and they cycle out, and we need to make sure that we have significant resources to continue to meet those needs ongoing. So Simone has done a great job. She and I have been wrestling a lot regarding resources, and so we've identified, you know, we continue to identify resources that we can expand in this area. So
I don't know if this will help, but you're getting $25 from the eaters because Keegan lost his cord for his Chromebook.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure that'll really
Yeah,
help.
thank you, yeah.
Everything helps.
I would suggest that perhaps you actually named an amount there, that we start talking about that publicly, because our community is great at stepping up for resources, and if they know we have, you know, a specific need, you know, that's an opportunity for other people to help. So we talked about it, it's known, and word of mouth spreads.
And that's a good segue to the comment I wanted to make. Just we don't have, and we never have had the replacement resources in place as a district. I know that there was an attempt for that with a referendum in 2018, and 2 of the 3 questions passed, but the technology referendum didn't pass at that point. So I think it's important for us to continue, like we're still piecemealing things together to make it work. But I think at a certain point, you know, continuing to get the word out about what the needs are to have 21st century learners is going to be important for us to think about as far as a potential operating levy and referendum.
Well, I think if we're talking about the needs and give the community an opportunity to step up or help in any way possible, will be much more helpful if we need to ask for a referendum, because they know that we've been working on it and trying to fill that gap without having to ask taxpayers for more money. And I think that helps a lot.
Well, and I know Bart and Smo, you guys have been working on a plan for replacement cycles and how we support
Yes,
technology in the
he's done a
future.
great job, and along with Anthony too, reviewing it, and he knows what he needs. You know, everything's $11 million. So
And technology changes so quickly.
it does, and he points out, you know, it used to be a 5-year cycle, now it's really 3 to 4.
Just
Trying.
before we move on, I just want to bring some attention to the monthly assessment from Arctic Wolf. You can look at this, it's on page 46. It just talks about where some of our vulnerabilities are, some reported incidents, and it just gives us an idea as to how we are protecting ourselves and our information from ne'er-do-wells.
And just to let the board know and the community know that that information was shared today with our principals at our Principal Plus meeting. So all of our principals and other leaders are providing an update regarding where we are, as it relates to cybersecurity. And again, just to make sure everyone is informed and make sure that's why we are doing those spamming campaigns and those pension campaigns, which teachers and staff dislike. Many of them dislike those campaigns, but it's meant to train. It's meant to continue to remind staff to be really protective of just opening up emails and that could jeopardize our systems. We know that there are school districts in the cities and throughout the state that have had to close or cancel school because technology was wiped out.
And while we are possibly only going to see a 1.5 increase in our health insurance, what did we see this year in our cybersecurity insurance? It was a double-digit increase.
It was, but we just sent everything in, so I don't have a number back.
Yeah, I can't remember the number either, but if we're not covered here, then it affects the budget because our insurance keeps.
And it's super strict.
It's very strict.
We have a lot of questions that we have to answer, and if we don't meet the guidelines, they don't want to see us.
And that's a financial burden.
Definitely.
Great. Transportation, how are we doing in transportation?
Well, we have our buses, our new buses in.
Our
so
new
that's,
buses
yes,
came in?
so and
I
that
gotta talk about that.
our transportation manager Jeremy Casapitas will be picking us up on Friday and taking the board. Is it at 1 or at 3?
Or is it at 3?
I thought it was at 3. Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting to have those 2 new buses, and
great.
As Director Severin said, that hired a couple more drivers. That is just a constant ongoing. We are still looking for an assistant supervisor, transportation supervisor. We have people that apply, but the job market's pretty good for them right now. So if they want to stay in their own community, they do. So we are still looking for an assistant supervisor for that department. When you see the new building, it's beautiful. So they have a wonderful new place to go to. And
we have a mechanic, right? We got a mechanic.
we got a mechanic. We are fully staffed there, and we have 2, yes. And Jeremy Casapitas has been training like 2 or 3 times a week on the new software program, and they're thrilled about that. It will be much more interactive with the sites too. So we're really looking forward. He should be done with that, I think, in May. So that'll be pretty exciting.
And you said he'll be done with his training in May?
Yes. And we are just trying to help transportation out as much as possible. I think there's a little rain, snow tomorrow. I dread bad weather. But the superintendent has been great at going out 4 in the morning as well, and trying to assess roads, and it's a thing here. And of course we have the snowiest year ever.
It's time to break the record though.
Not
Right.
quite.
Well,
0.3 inches.
I was gonna say, are we 1 inch away?
0.4?
0.3.
Yeah.
0.3.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We can do it.
We can do it. Bite your tongue.
We're gonna bring the Spirit Valley snowmaking
Right.
machine downtown.
Love it.
So this report says that there's still 5 drivers short. Is that not true then?
It's, I think at the time it was true.
Right.
I mean, it was like, 11, so it's going down.
Going in the
As
right
with
direction.
food service, she's down to 8 openings only, so things are getting, I mean,
No
she
double
was at
digits.
22. So slowly, it seems like people are ready to come back to the workforce, so that's pretty exciting.
And you said that we're gonna get a ride in the new buses.
Yes.
So maybe I need to come and bring a wheelchair so they can practice.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. Do it.
Seriously.
That'd be great. Yeah.
That's to be determined, because I don't know that a wheelchair can get through the mud up there, so.
Yeah.
If we push it fast.
Or a Hamlet.
All right, I think that concludes all of our departmental reports. Thank you all. Sorry about that.
Yes, okay. I'll be ready next month.
Right, there you go. Moving on to our recommended resolutions. The first one is acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools. You can peruse that at your leisure. And then the next one is acceptance of grants to the Duluth Public Schools. So there's a ton of them. That's always great to see. So those are our two resolutions that will be at the big school board meeting. What we'll see on the consent agenda is we have our HR staffing report. I think this is pretty standard. Moving on to a new classification description, the utility person 2. Would you like?
Yeah, so that was a job description that we made some slight modifications as a result of negotiations back in the fall. We're just finally getting around to finalizing that job description with the union. It's really just has some level of increased duties and kind of clarifying that there's some additional support duties that they can do. And then we did increase the requirement of years of service and some other small pieces there, so.
Because this is a 2, not a 1 position, so your expectation is
Yes.
more experience. Got it. This is modifications because of negotiations with which union? Was it
The
fire?
firemen and oilers.
Okay. I just want to make sure I say it correctly. All right. Great, moving on to the next thing we have on our consent agenda will be the financial report.
Most favorite part.
My most favorite part, the part I pay the most attention to.
Okay, the first is my monthly report to you on how we're spending. So that's in front of you, your revenue and expenses. In the bottom lower left, I have what we're spending in Finance 160. That's one of our ESSER 3 funds. We spent to date, when I grabbed this was as of 4/11, 6.5 million. We have 5 months left of spending to do. We have summer payoff, so that number will increase dramatically. To the right of that, we have our Fund 6 building construction program. We've spent this year 15.167, but last year was 9 million, so we're at the 25-26 million mark. And I know they're doing some heavy work right now with furniture and whatnot, so we'll see some bigger increases there. And then to the right, I always include in Fund 1 our extracurricular revenue and expenses. Okay? So,
I just have a question. about
sure.
The building construction, it's 31 million that was approved. Are we gonna come in under that?
Well, that's a great question. Last month, they felt we were going to come within 300,000 under budget, so it's pretty exciting. We have a couple changes to go through, so we have a little, extra money from the land of Hawks, or sale of Hawks, if we do need to go over, but we don't anticipate it. I'm hoping we can stay within our budget.
I would be absolutely thrilled if you could say that we
Yes.
came in under budget.
Right now, we're under budget.
Perfect. I
And
hope we can stay
they
that
do a great job. They kind of build in all these scenarios and the what ifs, and so they think we're gonna come in a little bit under.
Well, and I think it would be great, because we're gonna have a public open house when this is open, if we can have that information displayed somehow on how the money was spent, and so people can,
Absolutely.
it's very transparent of like where their money went and why.
And we built very specific codes for mechanical, utility, electrical, so that's how I can break it out for you. And
I
then
think that would be
we can do
great.
that, yeah.
And, so people know that we're being responsible and, we asked for exactly what we needed, that sort of thing. It wasn't that, we inflated the price just because. Right. So thank you for all that work. And let us know when it's official we're under so that.
Even if it's $1, I'll be happy.
I will be so happy.
Right. We'll keep our fingers crossed, so that is my monthly budget summary.
I like it. And then I encourage you, if you get a chance, to talk with Director Zunich about the new way that we're displaying some of this information. It was very helpful. And it shows us trend lines and forecasting, and I think
Yeah.
it's really helpful.
For this revised budget part that I'll
Yep.
talk about, it's pretty nice the way we're gonna look at it now.
Can you comment on that extracurricular
The student
expenses
activities.
being much more than
It looks that way
Yeah.
for this year, but please remember that we brought in $1.3 million from that checking account, that was in student activities, that we moved over into the Skyward accounts. So that's not reflecting that, that's just showing what we took in this year. It's not giving you the beginning budget numbers, but we brought in very healthy balances for the sites.
Moving on to the FY '23 revised budget.
Yes, so I'm presenting the revised budget for approval. This is our new budget management analytics tool, and it's 2 pages, so you can go front to back. But are you gonna cast that up there? So does everybody have it in front of them? Can you see it? Okay, so this information, a revised budget, you do a mid-year review. So I actually pulled this as of January 31st, so we have good 7 months in there. But please remember, our teaching staff we start paying them in September, so their percentage is a little bit different. So I like to use January 31st. Are you having trouble with it? Casting it?
There we go.
Okay. Oh, okay, can you make it way bigger?
Yes.
I have bad eyes.
Right?
Okay, let's see there you go. Okay, so our revenue here, so this was captured, a snapshot as of January 31st, these numbers. We are now able to show you what the revenue is, that our final audited numbers from 21 and 22. So you see in 21, our revenue was at $126,621,000. And in
pointer thing or anything?
I need a pointer thing. I have to get that for the next time. I need a, yeah.
I've got one for you, Simone. It's
Okay.
big finger.
Oh,
big
perfect.
fat.
Okay.
When I was telling my students, depending on how they were acting, which finger would be the
I
one.
need that. And in June of 22, our revenue was at 127,961,000. So you see that it went up about $1 million from 21 to 22. The adopted budget that was done last June came in at 118,341,000. Those are estimates. We do those estimates in June, and in August, I'll go in and do our summer levy information, and then in September, you get your actual levy. So right now, when this was built, did not include ESSER, and these were our soft estimated numbers. So now I came in mid-year and I'm revising the numbers. So we dropped state because of the way it was just reported in our system. We dropped state from 99,912 down to 90 million. And our federal went from 10.2 up to 16.4. So we decreased one but increased another one. Our property taxes, the budget was at 6,000,003. We brought it all the way up to 21,186 because once we get our hard numbers, you can see where your differences are. And we added our ESSER money into this as well. And then our local fees, interest, the budget was 2,000,008. I just upped that, not even $1 million, to 3.6. So the biggest thing I want to point out here is that the adopted budget was at 119 million. Now our new budget revised is 131 million, but it's in line with our last 2 years, okay? So it was at 126.6, in 22 it was 127.9, and now we're bringing this year to 131. So it is in alignment with our last 2 years, okay? And we did, because of ESSER, we did get we adjusted our property taxes, and we did get some additional special ed funding that wasn't in the initial proposal. So we just added all those numbers in here. And then under expenditures, the adopted budget was at 119,003. We upped it now to 130 because I increased the revenue with our $10 million in ESSER spending, you also have to increase your expenditures. So it's all in alignment. And again, look at your 21 expenditures. These are audited numbers, came in at 118.4. In 22, we spent 125.7. And now we are going up to 137. And of course, our increased spending because of our ESSER. And remember, our ESSER is a reimbursable, so we have to spend the money and then I have to go in and ask for it. Okay, so this is our Fund 1. To the right of all this information, you'll see January 31 of 23. On January 31st, we're showing that we have spent, I love this part, 41.4% of our budget. In January 1 of 22, at this time, we had spent 35.6. And then in 21, we were at 46.6. So I like to look at these percentages to make sure we're on track. We're in the 40s, but this is down below in expenditures. You'll see this year, as of January 21, 23, we're at 47%. But in 22 and 21, but we had COVID, we were at 44.5 and 42.2. So these are great, this is a great tool to make sure that we're trending properly. This would tell me if there's a giant error here somewhere. Brett, would you push that down a little bit, please? Okay, so up above I gave you the numbers by object series, so that's the last, you know what the object code is. That tells if it's a salary, if it's a supply, that type of thing. Now, in Duluth, because we're a bigger school, the budget was always presented as a program, but I'm giving it both ways to you now for, I think I like to look at object codes, but because we're so big, program series is important as well. So that number matches up above. It's just a different way of looking at it. The salaries and wages, and then down below you have like site administration or district administration. So we just break it down differently, but the numbers are there for you. So I think this is a great transparent tool for everyone to look at, our public that are listening, and our school board and our district, to see these are our numbers and we are on trend. So we're doing good. And if you keep pushing that down, okay, so that was Fund 1. And down below here now we have everything else, because this doesn't really change. In our revenue, we have food service, community education, construction, debt service, trust, internal fund. There's no change. The adopted budget was at 917. I didn't make any changes there, okay? In expenditures, our adopted budget was 924. And our revised budget's at 924. I, again, did not make any changes in any of those funds in the revenue and expenditures. But as well, one more thing. As you can see with our revenue, you see we're on trend. So I think that's a great tool too for us to see all that. And then down below, it says all funds summarized. So the adopted budget, the way it looked, was coming in under 868,000. The way the revised looks, we might be a little over by 297,000. And this tool is also allowing me to go in and look at if our fund balances to see if we'll be able to put some money aside. There's another tab for that as well. So it's very, there's 20 tabs, they all feed each other, but it gives us a great summary page. So I hope this helped, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to walk through any of it with you, and I ask for you to approve it.
I just have a question. So the 297,000, is that like saying that we're in debt, you know, or you know, that
We're
that
gonna
we need to cut to cover it? Or
no, that's over budget. So we were saying before the 868, the spending variance, that we were over budget $868,000. So now we're saying we might be to the good. That's there's a lot of spending that needs to happen. So if I can bring it in flat, it'd be great.
So if it's in parentheses, it's over budget. If it's
That's
not,
correct.
it's okay.
That's right. Good.
great
Yeah,
job.
because, and you can see that right there, revenue for adopted budget, is at 100 and her adopted budget was at 157,426,177. The expenditures were at 158,294, so our expenditures were higher than our revenue. So that would put us over budget. But the way all this plays out, I'm hoping we come in at 297,000 over budget, okay?
And I think this is
Or under.
fantastic. I like this layout.
I know,
The
I-
general public can,
It-
you know,
Yeah, it's really
compare,
accessible.
you know.
Yeah.
Having those prior years right there to see how we're handling it and, yeah, I think once we get a history of this document, to look back on, I really hope that the public can be much more aware and involved in our finances.
Good, I'm glad you like it, I do too, I'm very excited about it.
And as we pointed out, one of our main strategic priorities for the district is transparency of resource planning and allocation. And I think this is just another example of the type of tool and type of work, type of leadership that we're hoping for. Also want to say thank you to Simone for all the hard work that's gone into this, and also thinking that in many ways we haven't really replaced your position within business services, and so you've been able to do great work with viewer resources as well.
I have great support here. Great
Right.
admin team.
I know with our reorganization of the department, I hope that's helped in the support, but are we ever looking at replacing the old position? Or is that just something that's not,
We'll
that doesn't even
probably,
exist anymore?
we'll look at replacing or adding resource, but the resource probably won't be the same. It will probably be more of like a specialist type position is what you're thinking at this point. Is that correct?
Yes,
And just as long as it's what you need, that's what's
I
important.
appreciate it, thanks.
All right, thank you. Moving on to fundraisers, you can look to see fundraisers that the student council made $100 selling tea to the staff in the morning, so that's
That's gonna help our budget.
seriously, with that $25 from us, we're set.
Right?
Moving on to bids, RFPs and quotes, we have a quote for some flooring installation. We have a bid for roofing labor, plumbing labor, another bid for food requirements. We're doing a 1-year extension on our bakery products, and all that can be found under bids, RFP, and quotes. And I don't think there's anything, I looked through here, I didn't feel like it was anything earth-shattering. We have no contracts, change orders, or leases, and then we move on to our miscellaneous items. None of these items will need to require action from the full board. So, starting on page 88, we have our district property update. And will this update, no, this is our monthly progress report. So this just tells us what's going on at DSC and other places as well. And there's some great pictures. It looks like it's moving along really well. Looks great.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
Will we continue with Homer for our future sales transactions, with like the transportation going on, we're able to sell it, or is that something that we don't even need a contracted service for?
I think that would be something for us to consider, but I would also say that we've had pretty satisfactory service with Flomer. He also has pretty good name recognition throughout the community too. I would say that in general, if we're looking at land sales, we want to make sure that there's the responsibility factor from not having a lot as far as commissions and such, but there's also the hugely valued asset of being able to get as much money for the properties that we would sell. But I would also look to our current and new leadership to have input on that as well.
I ask because our former superintendent didn't engage a realtor for many, many years until the board asked for it. So that's why I asked.
Thank you.
All right, so we've talked about our district property update, moving on to our Moody's bond rating, and I think the big news on this is that we've updated our credit analysis, or we've updated our bond rating to A3, and that's huge. That's a big deal.
So the process for Moody's and our evaluating our credit rating is we have about a 1-hour interview I had with them about 6 weeks ago. And there's an extensive amount of questions. And they ask about our community, what's being built, our enrollment trends. They look at our audit, and based on all of that, they said, wow, Duluth is doing great. So we're gonna move you up 2 notches. So it's very exciting for all of us.
Wait, it was 2 notches.
It's actually 2 notches, yeah. So it went from a BAA2 up to an A3. So I think even the Moody's gentleman that I work with, he thought, it'd come back the same or maybe a slight, when he came back, he's like, this is fantastic. It went up a lot more than they anticipated. So it goes back to a committee and they review our finances, and it's important to be honest with them, and I didn't want to inflate the fact, like, I think enrollment's going to jump 500 students. That's why it says the enrollment trend is going to stay the same. And, we just talk about the hospital and the freeway and all the apartment buildings that are going up, and it's important, and that information feeds into all of this. So they were very congratulatory.
Yeah, that's great.
So
I immediately went and looked at all of the surrounding credit ratings of all the other districts immediately, just to kind of give.
And was it good?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I know they were doing another district the same day as us. So yes, we're very excited about this. What you see up here is the press release. It's not a 1-pager, it's 6 pages long. So Brett, would you move that down just a little bit? That's to that same, yes, thank you. Do you see the second to last sentence? It says the positive outlook has been removed. To me, that looks a little negative, but what it means is when we had our credit rating before, they're hoping we were gonna do better. And so that was their way of saying, all right, we'll give you this credit rating, I hope we come in better. But for them to remove that is excellent, okay? It was originally assigned to indicate the district was making some ground in improving its finances, but was not yet ready to have a rating upgrade. Since Moody's took action to upgrade the rating, the positive outlook is no longer applicable. So I just wanted to point that out, because if people see that, it looks negative, but it's not. It's actually a really good thing for us.
And A3 is how far from the top?
There's like a
6. There's like A3, A2, A1.
It goes to like a double AAA. So.
Yeah, okay, and then it goes to double.
I mean,
Wouldn't that be, maybe we'll go to a AAA++.
well, that's always the goal, right? I just, in the state of continuous improvement, it's always good to
Yes,
know how we can improve.
we have room to go up,
So, yeah.
but we're out of the Bs, we're into the As now.
I think a big part of it is, what do we think about our fund balance? We've come a long way. I used the point of when I started, but not because I had the main effect on it, but when I started, we had a fund balance of like 300,000 to 500,000, where we need a fund balance of at least 10 million, if not, we would say more.
Yeah, I'd like it
but
to
at
be-
least 10 million,
Yeah.
and we're getting there. And I think that was work that was done for turnaround from our previous CFO, Kathy Erickson, and work that you were doing behind the scenes as well as the work.
Member
you're doing now.
Trinka, Sally
Yeah, Member
Best.
Trinka,
Member
you,
Trinka did a ton.
the school board, I think, has been very influential in insisting that we put at least 500,000 towards that fund balance, so you can be thankful of the work that you've done and the leadership that you've shown.
Can you move it down just under the ratings rationale? I just want to kind of review that. In this paragraph here, it really explains how they came to their conclusion. I'll let you read all the details, but it really boils down to the school board supporting our administration to make the best decisions they can. So to our superintendent, assistant superintendent, to our HR director, your support means something, and believe it or not, it all flows to this document eventually.
Yeah.
So,
So are you saying that when boards are much more contentious, it affects our rating?
well,
and when- when we're all working together, it helps.
It really does, because you're giving the administration the room to make the best decision for the kids, and then that all makes a difference. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, I agree. Are there any other questions about our awesome Moody's bond rating? Moving on to expenditure contracts signed, you can see all of those expenditure contracts. We have no cost, or do we have no cost contract changes? Where am I? 108. I never.
There's 5 of them.
Is there 5 of them? Thanks, Mona. I can never tell if it's no cost or. Okay. And then revenue contracts, we have no revenue contracts. So that is our meeting.